Good morning, and welcome back to the Haven Financial Group radio show. I'm Larry Kolvig, founder and CEO of the Haven Financial Group, on with Kyle Thomas, certified financial planner on the Haven investment team, talking about all this volatility and tariffs and all these conversations. They're just so much fun, or not, but preparing people, that's extremely important because, sometimes when we talk about money, it can get very uncomfortable, emotions set in, worry sets in. And really, our job description should be to try to comfort, educate, and give the confidence that people really need to have in retirement to avoid these not sleeping nights or fear. And money can cause a lot of issues, and that's what our job is, to help people in that area.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people are just sitting. You mentioned it earlier, Larry, sitting on their money. They don't know what to do. Again, this uncertainty. And then it all comes back to the same word, which is tariffs. Everybody says, but what's going to happen with the tariffs? We got to find out what's going to happen with the tariffs. So maybe we could get an update. I know, Kyle, you've been following this pretty closely, where we stand when it comes to the tariffs, for those who maybe are not following it as closely as all of us.
Yeah, so globally, at least what we've heard from the Trump administration is that there's 90 some countries that are wanting to make deals with the United States on renegotiating the trade deals that we have with each individual country. So, that's positive news right there, that that we have ongoing negotiations with all of them. The biggest one is China and the European Union. And China, we had that 90-day pause on the tariffs with them, and actually some of the tariffs were removed completely from that whole deal. And then the European Union, there was increased expectations that we'll have a trade negotiation settled with that as well. And so that is huge news, because no one ever wanted these tariffs to remain in place. Trump himself and everyone in his administration did not want these to be a long-term thing. It was to provide pressure onto these other countries to come to the table and let's make a deal and have a fair trade negotiation or trade deal with each other. Because these tariffs, they're not taxes on the countries themselves. They're taxes on the companies importing those goods from those countries. So if we have tariffs with China, the companies that are importing goods from China are getting taxed, which could pass on to the consumer, which they don't want to do that. The company doesn't want to do that. The government doesn't want to do that to the consumers, because that can cause a lot of problems and inflation and cost of goods going up, which can impact retirees specifically. And the government just doesn't want that for people. So, it's not a long-term thing that anyone wanted.
No, that is for certain. When it comes to investment strategies, are you at Haven Financial Group, are you looking closely at the companies that could be the most affected?
So we don't look at the specific companies from that aspect. We look at diversified portfolios that invest in all different kinds of companies. Now, our allocations to different types of companies can change. They have a couple times over the last year and a half or so. But we're remaining diversified and not individually picking stocks, because that carries a whole lot of extra risk that is just unnecessary. And data and research shows that having increased risk exposure into singular companies like that doesn't actually increase your expected return. Having diversification does that, because we want to be allocated to all different types of the spectrum. So we want large caps, we want small caps, we want international, and having all of those pieces creates a better risk reward characteristics inside of there. And we also want some safety in there. So bonds, some annuities in there, inflation protection. So we're not individually going to any stocks or sectors or anything like that.
Larry, that's one of the things I think that really means you need a partner, because it's hard to put together, unless that's something you've done all your life, a really diversified portfolio like that on your own.
Let's face it, there are do-it-yourself investors out there. More power to you. They do a lot of research, and maybe they're really good at it. If you're married, make sure you have a backup plan for the spouse. But there's a lot of folks that just don't like investments, or that talk about money. They're just not into that. We all have our strengths and weaknesses. I get it. So putting the thought into the diversification, what sectors, a good balanced approach. Kyle and the team, they look very closely at the different asset classes and making sure there's the right recipe to the portfolio. Because I'm not a glass half full guy. I still, short-term volatility, again, none of us have a crystal ball. I think that's going to be short-term volatility, but long-term, I'm very, very optimistic. Again, we don't have a crystal ball, but whether, as we're talking, whether you realize it or not, global trade policy touches every aspect of our financial life. It really, really does. From what you pay at the store to what your retirement portfolio looks like, how it performs. And if you're listening and you're not sure, or you're unsure of how these recent tariff shifts or trade deals might impact your future, or really you haven't sat down with your guy or gal to even talk about it, I think that's a mistake. Let's have that conversation. Give us a call and let's work through it together, because what we found is having a partner. I just had a couple in this week. They live on the river. They're retired. They were worried. They were concerned. They're a prime example. But well, guess what? We have a plan. They left the office after an hour and a half of discussing everything what we put into the plan over the last several years, and they felt good about it. Mm-hmm. And that's what really gives people the confidence to go, okay, somebody's got our back. And that's what we really want to be, a partner that has your back.
Mm-hmm. I think you just said something that's so interesting. These tariffs and this uncertainty affects, and trade policy affects every aspect of everyone's life. I think there's a lot of people who believe this is just high finance.
Oh, I would agree. Again, the high finance, but it does affect from the gas pumps to, literally every aspect of your life. But don't take that to the extreme and go, oh my gosh, now I'm going to worry more and more and more.
Right.
Put together a plan so you have some confidence into what you're doing. Just don't wing it. If you're too busy I haven't got around to it yet. I don't care what age you are listening. Let's start somewhere to get somewhere. Even if the kids finally have left the house and you're mid-50s and you haven't started a plan, now's the time. If you're 20 and listening, now is the time. Time is of the essence. Of the element of time becomes that much shorter as we get older. Again, don't make the mistakes so many other people have made.
Absolutely. Kyle, and what would you like people to take away from the idea of tariffs?
I just want people to not necessarily be, too scared of them for it to impact them on changing their allocations completely, like taking all their stocks and going to cash. There's all these indexes out there that show fear is driving the market or greed is driving the market. I know CNN has one of those on their site, but I don't necessarily like those things, because when I track it just for my own, personal, scope of things, it just seems to flow with how the market's doing. So it doesn't seem to have an impact on what is actually going to be happening. And it seems like it's a past indicator of what everything is going forward. So I just be careful of paying attention to those things, because a couple of weeks ago, fear was driving the market when I looked at it. And now when I look at it today, greed is driving the market. And what's happened since then? Well, the market's gone up.
Yeah.
So just be careful about that. Make sure that you work with a partner that can help you properly diversify and have a balanced portfolio for you that can rebalance, because when fear was driving the market, we were buying stocks and selling bonds. And now it came back positively for us. And that's some benefit that advisors who are properly managing your money can provide for you.
Absolutely. So if you are unsure about these shifting tariffs, or you're concerned about trade deals and you don't know how that's going to possibly impact your future, then give the folks at Haven Financial Group a call. The number is 612-504-8400. They can work through this with you. Again, the number 612-504-8400. Everybody needs a partner in these uncertain times. Coming up next, we're going to talk one more time about the emotions of your finances and trying to keep that in logistics as opposed to emotions, right here on the Haven Financial Group Radio Show.